Now that the Samsung Galaxy Note series is officially no more, is this really RIP for the Samsung Galaxy Note? What's up guys, Saf here on SuperSaf TV, and in this video we're going to be comparing the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra to the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra to really see how much of the Note DNA is still in the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra, what all the key differences are including camera samples, and to answer the question, should you upgrade from the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra to the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra. This video is sponsored by Canva Pro. Stay tuned to find out how you can get a free 45-day extended trial. So let's kick off with the design. You'll immediately notice that we do have similar designs, with both having squared off edges to give you somewhat of a notepad look, and we also have these curved sides on the front and back. The biggest design difference really is with the cameras. We've got this camera module with a camera bump on the Note 20 Ultra. On the S22 Ultra, we do have this new design with individual camera rings. Now, the Note 20 Ultra camera module does protrude more compared to the rings on the S22 Ultra. And overall, I have to say that I do like the design of both devices, but I do prefer this new look on the S22 Ultra, although these individual camera rings do gather some more dust around the edges. Now, the Note 20 Ultra is available in 3 different colors: a mystic bronze, a black, as well as a white. This mystic bronze has a matte finish, which is my favorite. The black and the white have glossy finishes. With the S22 Ultra, we've got a matte finish across the board. We've got a phantom black, a phantom white, a burgundy, as well as a green. Now, there's also 3 additional exclusive colors available from Samsung.com. We've got a graphite, a sky blue, and a red. If you're interested to pick one of those up, I'll leave a link down in the description below, which will also give you an exclusive $50 of credit with some more bonuses. So you do get more options on the S22 Ultra, and I would say that the design overall has now been improved. Now, there are some minor size differences. So the Note 20 Ultra is slightly taller compared to the S22 Ultra. However, the S22 Ultra is slightly wider and thicker. It also weighs more compared to the Note 20 Ultra. And I gotta say, overall, the Note 20 Ultra is more comfortable because of that lighter weight. It was quite refreshing to see something this light for its screen size. However, this is because it's got a smaller battery. We'll be talking about the batteries a little bit later. Both devices do have an IP68 water and dust resistant rating, which is great considering that they have an S Pen. And both are also very premium. We've got an aluminium frame with Gorilla Glass panels on the front and back. So on the Note 20 Ultra, we do have Gorilla Glass Victus. The S22 Ultra has the improved Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, which is supposedly 12.5% more durable. Now, I have no idea how they've reached this number. I'm not somebody who does drop tests, so I'm not going to drop these devices to find out. But generally speaking, both of these are going to be quite durable. I've had my Note 20 Ultra for about 1.5 years now, and it's been absolutely fine. Right, now let's turn these around and take a look at the displays. So at a glance, both of these look pretty much identical from the front. We've got similar sized bezels with an Infinity O punch out, and both devices are using dynamic AMOLED 2X technology. However, there are lots of big improvements on the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra. So the first thing I want to say is that the Note 20 Ultra still has an excellent display and it still holds up even 1.5 years on. However, although it does have a Quad HD Plus resolution, you can only have this resolution at 60 Hz. You can't have it at its maximum 120 Hz. If you do switch to 120 Hz, then you'll only be able to use full HD Plus resolution. On the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra, however, you can have the maximum sharpness with the maximum smoothness. So you can have the full Quad HD Plus resolution with the 120 Hz. The reason for this is because we now have LTPO technology, which allows the refresh rate to be adaptive and go all the way down to just 1 Hz. So when we have static content on screen like so, then on the S22 Ultra, it can refresh just 1 times a second, making it a lot more efficient and allowing it to have that much higher resolution. The Note 20 Ultra has a peak brightness of 1500 nits, which is actually really high even if we compare it to much of the competition in 2022. The S22 Ultra actually takes that step further with a peak brightness of 1750 nits, making it the brightest display on the smartphone market right now. So overall, some big improvements here for the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra display compared to that of the Note 20 Ultra, which is still a very good display. Now, while we're on the topic of displays, both devices do have an ultrasonic in-display fingerprint scanner. However, on the S22 Ultra, we do have the Gen 2 Qualcomm 3D Sonic sensor, which is around 1.7 times larger and around 50% faster. Now, side by side, it's very difficult to tell a difference, but I have to say, after using these for some time, I do get less failures on the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra compared to the Note 20 Ultra. Now, before we move on to the cameras, a quick thanks to our sponsor for this video, Canva Pro. Canva Pro is a design platform that makes it easy for everyone to design, whether that be for thumbnails, Instagram posts, stories, logos, or even brochures. Personally, I think it's ideal for creating social content because it lets you get really creative with features such as the background remover tool. And the best thing for me with Canva Pro is the fact that I can start a project on my desktop in my browser and then continue it on my smartphone. Now, being a content creator, it's important to publish content when most of your audience is going to be online. That can be challenging, however, in case you're out and about. But with the Canva Pro Content Planner, you can easily schedule content onto your different platforms so you can carry on with your day. You can also team up and save with Canva Pro. For just $12.95 a month for up to 5 people, you and your team can unlock everything Canva Pro has to offer. Plus, you can get an extended 45-day free trial using my special link in the description below. So you've got nothing to lose. Go ahead and try it. I'm sure you'll love it. So, cameras. Now, we actually have some significant improvements across the board for the cameras. Let's initially start off with the selfie cameras. The S22 Ultra does have a higher resolution, although you'll still be shooting at around 10 megapixels, but that allows you to have larger pixel sizes. And the biggest improvement that I've noticed is when it comes to colors. This is something that Samsung has improved massively. On the Note 20 Ultra, you do get images that are quite washed out and bright. However, with the S22 Ultra, you can choose between natural and bright selfies, and natural selfies just give you much better colors, and the selfies are also much sharper, as you can see from this example here. Now, for the rear-facing cameras, on paper, things might not seem massively improved, but let me break all of these down. So both devices do have 12 megapixel ultra-wide cameras, a 108 megapixel primary camera. The Note 20 Ultra has a single zoom camera. This will give you 5 times periscope zoom. The S22 Ultra has 2 zoom cameras like the S21 Ultra did. So we've got one at 3 times as well as a 10 times periscope zoom camera. So with the ultra-wide camera, in good light, I think the Note 20 still holds up. But the biggest advantage that you've got on the ultra-wide camera of the S22 Ultra is that it does now have dual pixel autofocus. This allows it to refocus for macro photography. So you'll be able to get in very close to your subjects and get some interesting shots which you can't do on the Note 20 Ultra. For the primary camera, you now have larger pixels, and again, in good light, you might not be able to tell them apart too much, but the S22 Ultra does have a wider field of view. And when it comes to low light photography, it takes much less time for you to take low light shots compared to that on the Note 20 Ultra. And in very tricky low light situations, you can get much brighter and sharper images on the S22 Ultra compared to the Note 20 Ultra. Now, when it comes to zoom, at 3 times, you will get better and sharper results on the S22 Ultra because you do have the optical zoom at 3 times, whereas the Note 20 Ultra will be digitally zooming at 3 times. However, at 5 times, the Note 20 Ultra is going to perform better, and that's because we've got optical zoom at 5 times, whereas we'll have a bit of digital zoom on the S22 Ultra. This is something that's clear in this example here, especially if we blow these images up 150%, you'll notice that the Note 20 Ultra is much cleaner. However, anything at 10 times and above, the S22 Ultra is just going to give you a much better result. Here you can see at 10 times, although the Note 20 Ultra isn't doing too bad, because of that native periscope optical zoom on the S22 Ultra, you're just getting a much sharper result. We can also compare them at around 30 times, and again, the S22 Ultra is just giving you a much cleaner result. The Note 20 Ultra maxes out at 50 times zoom, but you can go all the way up to 100 times zoom on the S22 Ultra. Now, I'm not sure why you'd want to do that because it can get pretty creepy when you are at 100 times zoom, but when it comes to extended zoom, clearly we've got some big improvements here on the S22 Ultra. Another big advantage I noticed was in the way of portrait mode as well. So with the S22 Ultra, Samsung is using new AI depth mapping technology, which gives you some amazing edges. So you can see here in this example, the Note 20 Ultra has missed some of my hair, but the S22 Ultra has got everything almost perfect. Here's another example. The S22 Ultra has managed to pick up everything, including the area in between my arms, whereas the Note 20 Ultra has missed this. Now, because we have the native 3x optical zoom on the S22 Ultra, you can actually get some portraits from this focal length as well. On the Note 20 Ultra, you can get portraits at 1x and 2x. However, the Note 20 Ultra does not have a 2x optical zoom camera, so it is using digital zoom, which results in quite a soft image. Here you can see in this example, the S22 Ultra is just so much sharper. This is especially noticeable when we blow these images up at 150%. So I gotta say, the S22 Ultra has some big improvements compared to the Note 20 Ultra, which still takes very good images. There's also improvements in the way of video. So both devices can film at 8K up to 24 frames a second, but the Note 20 Ultra, you can only do 4K 60 frames a second from the front-facing camera and the primary camera. On the S22 Ultra, you can film at 4K 60 frames a second across all of the cameras. You also have some new video features, including auto framing. This will allow you to track subjects within your frame without actually having to touch the camera. This actually works pretty well. It's not something that I can see myself using. Now, one of the reasons why we've got all of these new camera features is also thanks to the new image signal processors that come with the new chipsets. So the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra comes with either the Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 Plus or the Exynos 990 chipset. Now, generally speaking, in terms of performance, it still does hold up and it pretty much handles everything that I throw at it. However, the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra does come with the latest Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 or the Samsung Exynos 2200. Now, side by side, it can be quite difficult to really see massive differences, but if you do have the S22 Ultra, it is going to last you longer and it's going to perform better over time, especially with software updates. And speaking of software updates, Samsung has actually been really good with software updates, and I have got the Android 12 Samsung UI 4.0 update on my Note 20 Ultra right now. The S22 Ultra does come with the latest out of the box, One UI 4.1, and because it is the new device, it is going to have software support for a longer period of time compared to the Note 20 Ultra, of course. Hey, we'll leave SuperSaf for today. Just want to remind you that if you're enjoying the video so far and you want to see more content like this, then maybe consider subscribing to the channel, hitting that bell icon so you don't miss future content like this. Right, now let's talk about what makes the Note series unique, and that is the S Pen. And this is something that you still have on the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra. It's enclosed within the device. You're not gonna have to get it separately like you had to do on the S21 Ultra. So the S Pens are pretty much identical in size. However, we do have a matte finish on the S22 Ultra, whereas we've got more of a glossy finish on the Note 20 Ultra. I do prefer the matte finish. And if you must know, yes, you can use the S22 Ultra pen with the Note 20 Ultra and vice versa. They both do support Bluetooth, which means that you can have certain controls with the S Pens remotely, such as using the S Pen button as a remote trigger, which I think is quite useful. However, as expected, we do have some improvements for the S Pen on the S22 Ultra. The biggest one being is the latency. It is now down to just 2.8 milliseconds from 9 milliseconds on the Note 20 Ultra. How much of a difference does that make? Well, unless you're actually comparing them side to side, I don't think you're gonna notice a massive difference because 9 milliseconds is still really low. But the S22 Ultra also now has handwriting recognition support for up to 88 languages, which is 12 more than before. And we also have collaboration view. So if you do have the Samsung Galaxy Tab S8, you'll be able to sync your S22 Ultra with it. And say for instance, you have your canvas, you can have your different color swatches and things here on the S22 Ultra. And realistically speaking, the S Pen is the reason why I would argue that the S22 Ultra is essentially a Note device with a different name. Now, both devices do have stereo speakers. We've got one in the earpiece and one bottom firing. And to me, they sound really, really good. I can't notice a huge deal of difference. I do think that the S22 Ultra is slightly louder. And now let's talk about batteries and battery life. So The S22 Ultra does have a larger battery compared to the Note 20 Ultra. This is one of the reasons why it's slightly wider and slightly thicker, and in my experience, it does give you better battery life. So the Note 20 Ultra, I gotta say, is pretty good in terms of battery life. I'd be averaging around 5 hours of screen on time. On the S22 Ultra, I'm getting 6 hours plus. So I'd say you'd be getting around 20% better battery life on the S22 Ultra, thanks to that larger battery size and more of the efficiencies with the new chipsets. And when it comes to charging, both devices still support the same speed of wireless charging, which is at 15 watts. Both devices also support wireless PowerShare, reverse wireless charging, where you can charge things like earbuds on the back of the Note 20 Ultra as well as the S22 Ultra. However, the S22 Ultra does support faster 45-watt charging compared to 25-watt charging on the Note 20 Ultra. But there is of course a catch. The S22 Ultra unfortunately does not come with a charger out of the box. The Note 20 Ultra does. Now the charger is something Samsung decided not to include from the S21 series going forward. I know this is quite unfortunate for a lot of people, and this is an advantage that you get on the Note 20 Ultra. And that brings me on to the different storage sizes, because there's also another advantage that the Note 20 Ultra has. So both devices do come in either 128, 256 or 512 gigabyte variant. The S22 Ultra is also available in a massive 1 terabyte version as well. But the key thing to note is that you cannot expand the storage on the S22 Ultra because there is no microSD card slot. The Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra does have a microSD card slot. So if you did get, say, the 512 gigabyte version, you could get a terabyte microSD card and you could actually have more storage compared to the S22 Ultra. I'm not really sure what you're going to do with all of that storage, but hey, you have the option if you want. Now, this in itself might be a big deciding factor for some people I know, which is kind of why I left it all the way to the end. But essentially, it comes down to how much expandable storage really means to you. Finally, let's talk about pricing. So, the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra actually starts at a lower base price compared to what the Note 20 Ultra started at launch. And on top of that, if you use my link in the description below, you can actually get some really good deals on the S22 Ultra. For instance, you can get the 256 gigabyte version for the same price as the 128 gigabyte version, or the 512 gigabyte version for the price of the 256 gigabyte version. And on top of that, you can also get $50 of credit exclusively with that link, as well as some additional offers. With the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra, because it has been out for roughly a year and a half, you can get it for around about £800 here in the UK, or between $800 to $850 in the US. It's not available directly from the Samsung website as far as I can see, but I've had a look at some of the latest Amazon prices. So to answer the questions, in my opinion, the S22 Ultra is still a Note out and out, and it still has the Note DNA. And if you are somebody that was on the Note 20 Ultra, I actually think the S22 Ultra is a good upgrade with its improved cameras, its improved display, the updated S Pen, the improved internals, and the better battery life. However, you no longer get a charger included out of the box, and you no longer get expandable memory, which I know is something that's quite important to a lot of people. So if you are one of those people and you still have a Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra and it's doing fine for you, I think you can still hold on to it for at least another year or two. And if you're somebody that's thinking of buying either the Note 20 Ultra or the S22 Ultra, if you do go with the Note 20 Ultra, you will be saving a bit of money and you will be getting that expandable memory. However, with some of the pre-orders Samsung is offering right now, I personally would be tempted more towards going for the S22 Ultra. That's what I think anyway. What do you guys think? Do drop me a comment below and let me know your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then do smash that like button for me. And remember, we're gonna have more Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra content coming up here on the channel. If you don't wanna miss any of it, then be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon. There's gonna be more related S22 Ultra coverage linked here on the cards as well if you're interested. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on SuperSaf TV, and I'll see you next time.